In today's video, I'm going to be making a to-do list. I used the 18-inch wide roll of brown paper. The best spot I could find in my office to hang it was on the side of my safe, so I'm going to hang it using magnets. Let's get into it. So I'm using some 1x solid oak material to make it. I just used the paper roll itself to try and lay out the side of it just for sizing, and then this is a 1-inch oak dowel that I'm going to use to hang the paper roll on it, so I'm just marking out the sizes on there so I can cut out the ends. Just to make the radiuses, I find something about the right size in the shop, and I had this roll of Teflon tape laying that seemed to be good, and then marking out an angle on the bottom of it using the square. After I got the first one cut out, I just laid it on another piece and traced it so I could make two the same, and then clamped them together, and using the orbital sander I can make them to where they end up being the same for both ends. I needed to route a little channel in there, and I couldn't find a way to hold the piece down with a clamp because it was too small, so I ended up just taping it to the workbench, and it worked pretty good. And I used a straight edge router bit to notch out a channel for that 1-inch dowel to slide down into. Worked out pretty good. I didn't want to use any fasteners on this, so I'm trying my hand at using dowels here. So I laid out that end piece and clamped it to the end of the main one, and just drill into depth. I put a piece of blue tape on the drill bit so the depth would be consistent across. Got it all glued up. Just used 1/4-inch oak dowels. I made sure the length was a little long, that way they would all bottom out in the bottom of the holes. Here I'm making the piece that's going to hold the bottom of the paper, so I just cut it to length, and then I ran it through the table saw to actually cut it down a little bit narrower. And once I cut the dowel to length, you can see here that it fits in place. Just slides in the top there in those channels that we cut with the router. Now that the glue's dry, I just used a saw to cut off the excess, and then use that orbital sander to sand them down to be flush with the edges. And here's the magnets I'm going to use to hang it on the side of the safe. So I have 4 of these magnets. I'm going to put 2 on each end. I just laid them out, and then used a Forstner bit to recess them down a bit in there. I actually left it to where the magnets would stick out about 1/16 of an inch from the back of the mount to where it would stick off of the safe just a little bit. I used a corner round bit to round off the edges of the piece that holds the paper on the bottom, and then sanded the whole piece down. I'm using some early American stain here just to add a little bit of color to the piece. Goes on pretty easy, just using a sponge brush and then wiping off the excess with the towel. I was pretty happy with the color, the way it came out. And then I applied a small thin coat of polyurethane just to help protect it. Once it was all dry, I just used some super glue to glue the magnets into the recessed areas on the back of the mount. And then on this piece that holds the paper at the bottom, these are actually flush with the back of it. So the piece just sticks onto the side of the safe with those magnets. Use that 1-inch dowel through the paper. Sits in those recessed spots in the sides. And then you roll the paper behind the mount, between the mount and the safe, which is why I left those magnets sticking out of the back just a little bit to where there'd be enough room for that paper to slide through. So you roll the paper down, and then using that bottom piece, snaps on the bottom to hold it in place. That's it. It worked out pretty good. I was happy with the way it turned out. So we'll see how it goes. Let me know what you think of the video.